Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and on this show, ambitious women learn how to create a life they're obsessed with, without the hustle, without the grind, without torturing ourselves, and without following anybody else's rules. This podcast is all about creating our own rules, owning our identity as creator, and hitting every single goal we set for ourselves. Together, we're redefining success on our terms and building lives that look as good as they feel. Let's dive in. Let's talk about resistance and contrast, 2 reasons why your life is not unfolding the way that you want it to. Welcome back to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Gillen. And this podcast is, I think, a really important conversation because we learn about intentional reality creation. We learn about manifestation. We get into personal development. We read the books. We listen to the podcast, all the things. And we start to kind of sort of implement, but we don't actually change anything in our lives, or we only change small things in our lives. And we wonder why. So I actually created an entire podcast called Why It's Not Working and really the technical pieces of this. But this is almost like a part 2 to that because this is why it's not working. These are 2 kind of symptoms that you believe mean that they aren't working. I'm going to explain to you why they do not. So let's talk about it. What is resistance? What is contrast? What does that mean? And let's have a really valuable kind of candid conversation. So the way that I see contrast. So what is contrast? Contrast is if I'm intentionally trying to create, say I'm trying to intentionally create money. Right? Say that's what I'm working on. So I want to manifest money, or I want to call in more money. But when I start working on this and do the work, then I get a really big bill, or a client cancels, or something dramatic happens. You lose your job, or something weird and wild, right? And you're like, motherfucker, I was trying to call in more money and now I am not making any money, or, something bad has happened. To me, that is contrast. It is the opposite of what it is that you want to see. So that's contrast. Resistance is there is something happening in your life and you don't like it, and you're mad, sad, frustrated, angry about it, and you can't figure out why to change it, and you're constantly resisting it. I hate this. I don't want this. I hate this. I don't want this. I hate this. Why is this happening? Like when we really, again, resist anything in our life, any area of our life that is not living up to what we desire it to be, but we hate it. We don't like it. We're embarrassed. We're ashamed. We're frustrated, we're angry, we keep it alive. So there are 2 sides of the same coin, but because you can handle them a little bit differently. And I think that's the point that I really want to hammer home to you this morning is the difference between these 2 things and how do we change them, right? So let's start with contrast, why contrast happens and what to work with it. Or what to do to work with it. So contrast happens because the external world is a reflection of our past energy. We don't create immediately. And so what I mean by that is you have a thought of, I want to sign 10 clients this month. Maybe that's what it is that you are working on. But that doesn't manifest immediately. That doesn't come in immediately. And it doesn't come in immediately for a couple of reasons. One, being the energetics. And there's a kind of a joke in the movie or the book, The Secret, where they talk about that, right? Like it's a good thing that every thought we think doesn't manifest immediately because we would be in a world of hurt, right? Like what actually manifests in our 3D world or in our reality is what we spend most of our time focusing on. So we've got to give it some momentum. So having the thought one time, if I want to create more clients, isn't actually creating it, right? We have to first create an identity of somebody who signs 10 clients in a month. And then we have to flow our energy towards that to bring it into our reality. So for a period of time, and it's going to really depend upon your level of resistance, which I'll talk about next, and that is how long it will take, right? So, and what I also want to be clear about this when it comes to time and intentional reality creation, you're not actually playing a time journey. So this isn't a time journey in that, well, like I'm going to sign 10 clients next month and 12 the next and 14 the next. If you want 20 clients in 1 month, you can call in 20 clients in 1 month as long as you can align with it. So this isn't time in a way of how long it's going to take me to achieve. It's time as in you have to get into vibrational alignment with that thing for that thing to come into your reality. The amount of time that takes is the amount of time it's going to take for your manifestation, your whatever it is to come in. But you are going to, in the meantime, see things that are indicative of past energy, past beliefs, past identities. And those things are going to continue to come up. That is extremely normal. Where this wreaks havoc is then we react to the contrast. We see the contrast, we react to it, and we make it mean that it's not working, right? So I want to call in 10 clients. I just had 1 client cancel and I had 3 sales calls and they all said no. I'm seeing contrast. This doesn't work. This isn't working. What am I doing wrong? What's happening here? How do I fix this? And we go to work again in the external to try to change the results. And so our reaction to that contrast is actually what keeps that contrast alive, right? The fact that we react to it, that we give it our energy, we give it our focus, we give it our attention in a negative way. And we say, this isn't working. And the universe goes, here you go. Here's more of this not working. And so you continue to see more contrast and more contrast and more contrast. And the more effort and energy and attention that you give to that contrast, the more we keep that contrast alive. So what needs to happen when we see contrast, meaning I'm trying to call in 10 clients and I've got clients canceling, clients telling me no, whatever's happening, what do I need to do? I just need to see it as this is just past identity. This is past energy. This is working out for me, right? One of my favorite thoughts to think, and this is when you hear a lot in this world, is everything is always working out for me. So those clients going away, that's working out for me. That's clearing out space for those 10 clients I'm obsessed with, right? This client over here, these people who said no, they actually are not in alignment with where I'm going. That's why they said no. So what we need to be able to do is see the contrast and know that A, this is the old identity, and B, this is just the journey to get to where I want to go, to get to those 10 clients. And so that belief of everything is always working out for me means that even if it appears to be negative or not in alignment with where I am going, it has to happen for me to get in alignment with where I'm going. So that is constantly the story that I'm telling my clients when we start to see that contrast, when we start to see those things coming in that we don't want, is to be able to look at them without giving them a ton of attention, without giving them a ton of the energy, and without making them mean anything, right? One of the things, I probably mentioned this before on the show, but this I believe comes from A Course in Miracles and a lot of other places, but nothing in life has any meaning except for the meaning you give it. So you're meaning that those clients canceling mean you're not going to get 10 clients, or you're making it mean that those 2 people who said no or couldn't afford it or weren't a good fit mean that you're not going to get your 10 clients this month. And so that meaning is what you're getting, instead of, like I said, making it mean that if everything is working out for me, these clients canceling has to be part of that journey, right? These clients saying no have to be part of that journey, because again, I am the one who's creating my reality. And so even if this contrast, this is just the old energy clearing out and the new energy coming in. I explain this as, have you ever I literally just did this morning. I made a smoothie for my youngest, and she loves like a good yogurt smoothie. So we do like yogurt and milk and fruit. And I make her a smoothie and I pour it in a cup, and then I take the smoothie cup and I put it in the sink and I turn the sink on. And in the beginning, they're just pouring water on top of the lined cup of yogurt, right? It's like purple or red, depending on what if there's blueberries or strawberries in it, right? But I have to rinse that cup out. I have to get all of the smoothie out before I can actually clean the smoothie cup, right? And this example is what really is happening, right? Like the old stuff has to be cleared out first before the new stuff can come in. The problem is, if I were to pour water into the cup and not let the cup overflow, or to stop giving it water, then the walls of that cup would continue to be the color of the smoothie, right? It might change a little bit. Some of it may come off of the walls of the cup. It might be floating in the cup, right? Like, I don't know why I chose this example, but what's happening is, when you're energetically pouring your intentions on top of old stagnant energy, of not good enough energy, this isn't happening energy, that energy has to move out, right? You have to rinse it out. And how quickly you get to rinse it out, I'm using air quotes, is really based entirely on how much water you're putting in the cup. Because again, going back to this example, if I only filled the cup halfway with water, it would just sit there all day with smoothie in it and nothing would really change. And so that's what we do. We put a little bit of water in the cup, right? Maybe we meditate once or twice. We do a journaling exercise. We set some vision. We maybe take like a hot girl manifestation walk once a week, and we don't see any change. And we wonder why, right? Well, it's because you're not continuing to pour clean water into the cup. You have to overflow the cup with clean water and clean out all the dirt along the inside, or all the smoothie along the inside of the cup, for the cup to run clean. So the contrast that is happening is you're just cleaning out the old stuff that is still in the cup. That is contrast. The problem is that most of us then say, with this much water in the cup, when the cup is this big, right? We say it's not working. This isn't working. I got to clean this cup a different way. And then we just start over, right? We empty the cup out and we refill it. We empty the cup out and we refill it. But because we never let the cup run over with clean water, with clean positive energy, with clear intention of what it is that we want, we don't see that in our external world. So that's why you're experiencing contrast. And that's why I don't want you reacting to the contrast, or reacting to the contrast as little as possible. Because if we don't react to it and we just keep pouring the positive energy, the intentions, the alignment on top of it, eventually it will go away. Most of us just don't have the mental discipline to do it. This is where mental discipline comes in, where we can see an outside result, something happening in our outside world, and not making it mean I'm not going to get what I want. So that's really what's going on with contrast, right? Is that we're just cleaning out the cup, and we haven't got all the old smoothie out from the inside of the cup, so that it's just running clear water or pure positive energy. And so you just keep pouring a little bit of water and a little bit of positive and a little bit of positive and a little bit of positive on top of an old story. And then you're like, well, fuck it, this stuff doesn't work. And then you create your own self-fulfilling prophecy of it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? So contrast is something that is naturally going to happen because we live in human experience. Your job here is to not react to the contrast, and to continue to pour the positive energy, the intentions, the alignment on top of the contrast. It is literally what we hear in the world of personal development, non-reaction. non-reaction to that bill, non-reaction to that no, non-reaction to that canceling client, and instead focusing on, the good that's happening, what we want to happen, and seeing it for what it is. Because again, whatever story you make up is true. So if you make up a story that this client canceling means I'm not going to hit my goals, then that's true. If you make up a story of this client canceling makes space for a client I fucking obsessed with serving, then that also becomes true. You get to choose. Okay. So that is contrast. That means I'm intentionally trying to create something and I am seeing the opposite. How do I handle it? Right? So we handle it through non-reaction. We handle it by continuing to pour that alignment, that positive energy, whatever practices that you're using to keep yourself aligned on top of those results. And eventually, similar to the smoothie cup, it will run pure, clear water, pure, clear, positive energy. And the things that you want are calling in. So resistance, again, two sides of the same coin, is your resistance to the situation, meaning I don't like it. So I'm going to stick with my client example, right? I am trying to sign 10 clients, or my intention for the month is to sign 10 clients. And, it's the 25th of the month and I haven't done that yet. And so I'm making it mean that I'm not going to sign any clients and that I'm not any good and I'm never going to hit any of my goals. And I hate this and I don't like this. And what is wrong with me? And we're screaming no at our results, right? No. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I wanted. That is resistance. You're resisting what is. And resisting what is just, again, gives it more of your attention and more of your energy. And the more that you give it your attention and the more that you give it your energy, the more you keep it alive, right? One of the things we talk about a lot on this show is the idea that what you focus on expands, right? You are where your attention is. So if your attention is on this thing in your life you do not like, all you're doing is giving that the energetic attention, right? So if I have this scenario in my life, maybe I have debt, right? This is a big one. I have debt. And we've been taught, depending on where you live or whatever, that debt is bad or whatever. So I don't want to be in debt. I don't like having debt. I make debt mean that I'm not good with money. I'm not a good person. I can't be wealthy. I can't hit my goals. And I hate having debt. And I talk to anybody who will listen about debt. I journal about debt and I bitch and moan and complain about debt. And I vent about debt and I make the debt mean that I'm not good enough. You are in resistance to your debt. And again, the reason why the debt never goes away or in fact just gets bigger or wreaks more havoc is because it has all of your attention. One of the things that we hear all the time is the universe always says yes, or God says yes. You maybe heard me say that, right? So if your thing is your focus is on debt, God says yes to debt. And so you get more debt or your debt never goes away because you are in resistance to your current reality. What you resist persists. The more that you resist it, the more energy that you give it, the bigger it gets and the worse you feel. And then that's how you wind up on these downward spirals. Have you ever had that where you're like, it starts small and before you know it, you're like 6 months in and you're like, how the fuck did I get here into this really dark place? You got there through resistance by not being okay with what is. And then again, giving it your attention, talking about it, thinking about it, worrying about it, stressing about it, talking to anybody who will listen to about it. And so this resistance stays alive because it has your attention and God thinks that you like it and you want it because why would you give your attention to something that you don't like and what you want? One of my favorite things, there's a book I recommend all my clients read. It's a book called Dollars Flow to Me Easily by Richard Dotts. It's a tiny little book. You can really read it like in an hour on a Saturday morning, right? Like it's a really good one. I revisit it often, but he talks about in the book that, it is the reason why so much of our resistance to our financial situation is our focus on our financial situation. And the advice he gives in the book is the only time to focus on your financial situation is when you're paying bills, right? And he's like, if you're really honest with yourself, how much of your time is actually spent paying bills or being in your finances, right? Moment to moment, for the most part, as you go throughout your day, unless you have a bill due today, there's really no reason to worry about today, right? Most of us are worried about tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that and the day after that and the month after that and the week after that and the year after that, right? And so we wind up again in resistance to like something that hasn't even happened yet, but we worry about it and we obsess about it all the time. So his kind of recommended practice for letting go of this resistance is to stop really thinking about money at all, in this instance of money, thinking about money at all, except for when you are sitting down to pay bills, when you are going to the store to actually grocery shop or whatever the case may be, because day to day, we can actually flow throughout our lives, a lot of time throughout our lives without needing to think about money. We just think about it all the time because we think that our brain, our logical brain thinks that I have to focus on this thing. If I want to solve this problem, I have to give it my attention. And that's the exact opposite of what's happening. You're giving it your attention. Therefore, you're giving it your power. Therefore, it gets bigger. So what you need to do is you need to let go of resistance. You need to stop fighting. This is why the fighting anything doesn't work, right? Like I think of things in our world that we've created, right? Like the war on drugs and the war on crime. It hasn't made drugs or crime any less. In fact, it's only made it bigger because what we resist persists. right? It's not about protesting. It's about advocating, right? This is a conversation I had with my sister the other day, right? Like when we protest, this is not okay, even though factually we know that it's not okay. But when we resist it, we give it this resistant energy and we keep it alive. What we need to do is start advocating for what we want instead, right? So advocating, again, in this instance of debt, if that's the topic we are advocating for, having more than enough, having money constantly flow in, having money be a free resource, a resource that always shows up in your life, whatever you want your story to be. You need to stop protesting what you don't like. You need to stop resisting, and you need to start advocating for what you do want. If you spent as much time thinking about what you do want, on how good your life is and how amazing your life is and how you call in the best clients, how you make a shit ton of money, how you're so healthy, how you're so happy, how your life is so amazing. If you spent more energy on that, you would see more of that, right? Because again, what you focus on expands. You're just focused on what you don't like. You're consistently in resistance. It's the I want it, but, right? I want to make $1 million, but let me tell you all the reasons why I can't, or I should, I don't know how. Or I want my relationship to look this way, but let me tell you why that's never going to happen to me. That is resistance. That's focus on what we do want instead of, I want to make $1 million and I'm going to make such a big impact in the world. And I love that I make the most amazing clients. And I love they have the most amazing ideas, right? That means we're now advocating for what we want. We're focusing on what we want. So resistance is about attention, right? Again, what you resist persists. So stop resisting it, stop giving it your attention and give something else your attention. So if you can give the reverse of what you want your attention, do that, right? So again, say we're talking about money in this scenario or the business in some capacity, I don't have enough clients, focus on having clients. But sometimes that just wreaks more havoc or creates more resistance because your brain's like, bullshit, that's not true. So what do we do instead in those moments? Change the subject to literally anything. Remember, this is an energy game, a frequency game, a vibrational game. You are an energetic being in a physical body, or you're a spiritual being in a physical body. The world, the universe, God speaks vibration, frequency, right? So you don't actually have to be vibrating or thinking about money to call in more money. You can just be vibrating at a frequency of abundance, and you know that it's abundant because you know what abundance feels like or what you think it's going to feel like when you get the thing. But anything that makes you feel that way is going to get you into the frequency. So I shared on a podcast earlier, one of my favorite things to think about is memory of like being on a boat with my partner, right? Like to me, that is the feeling of abundance. So I don't even have to think about money. I can just think of what are other areas aside from that day that on that boat with Derek that feel really good, that feel really abundant, that feel really magical, that make me really happy, that make me feel like I have it all, that make me feel like I'm on top of the fucking world. And I can literally just play this highlight reel in my head of these amazing things that make me feel like $1 million fucking bucks, right? Like that is also going to create what you want, right? So it's not always just about from one side of the coin to the other with the same topic. It's how do I get into vibrational alignment? How do I become an energetic match to what it is that I desire? Somebody once asked me this question on TikTok, and I created a video, but I'm going to go into it a little bit deeper right now. Is like, how do I know what the frequency is if I don't have it or I've never had it, right? So, okay, well, close your eyes and think about what will it feel like? Whatever it is that you're chasing, whatever it is that you're resisting right now, if it weren't there anymore, right? If you were debt free, if you did have all the clients in the world, if you did lose 50 pounds, if you were in this happy, successful, fulfilling marriage, how would that feel, right? Find that feeling in your body. If you can't find the feeling in your body, then your nervous system is shot. You need to go do some nervous system regulation. I highly recommend breath work and meditation. But if you can find that feeling in your body of what you think it's going to feel like, that is the frequency of what it is that you want. So how do I find what Abraham Hicks always calls easy existing matches to that frequency, right? So, okay, I now know what this feels like. What else in life makes me feel that way? Again, for me, being in nature, hiking, being on the water, being with my family. A couple of weeks ago, Derek and I went up to, it was like an hour away to this really beautiful spa and resort. And we just stayed the night. It was like a random Saturday. And I got like a spa appointment for like 4 p.m. We went and like played in like their grotto, and we sat in the sauna and in the hot tub. And then we got a couples massage. And then we went out for a really nice dinner, and it was just so lovely. And so like that memory to me is the frequency of abundance. It's what I want my life to feel like and look like all of the time. Like I love the way that felt. I felt so taken care of and supported and loved, and just being with him in that moment. And it was just, and I just felt so much gratitude for that experience. Like to me, I could just relive that memory over and over and over and over and over again. And that is going to get me into resonance with what it is I desire, right? Which is the ability to, again, I've shared this before in my whole podcast about money, is to like, money is a complete and total non-issue. Every need and desire that I want is taken care of. And to me, the vibrational match of that is things like being on the lake, the spa experience, watching my kids play sports, being outside with my family, hiking, all of the different things. Like those are all things that feel rich and abundant, and I love them, and they feel fun, and they feel amazing, and they're things that make my life feel good. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole a little bit on this one. Y'all probably are not surprised, but that is really how do we let go of resistance is stop giving it our attention and instead start focusing on things that feel like what it is we want to call in. So again, clients, money, happiness, whatever. What does that feel like? And if you can find a memory or if you can find a visualization. So one of the things that I'm calling in right now is I want to go on a tropical vacation for spring break. And I know that there's a certain dollar amount that I want to call into the business before that's the move for our family. There's just some things we're working on financially. So I'm like, okay, this is what this needs to look like. So I've been spending a lot of time lately feeling into what does it feel like when I'm in Mexico with my family? Like, what does that feel like? What does that look like? What are we doing? What are the excursions? I've been pulling up resorts and looking at them and looking at what are the excursions we could take. And are the kids the right age for that to get into a vibrational frequency to the trip to Mexico? Instead of focusing on, well, I got to do this first, and I got to pay this first, and I got to make this first, and I got to call in this amount of money, and how am I going to do that? Right? That's resistance, right? If I want to say, hey, I want to go to Mexico, but I don't have the cash or I'm not willing to invest in that yet, I am in resistance, right? That now's not a good time. I shouldn't do that. This is irresponsible. I should do this instead. I can make it mean all these different things. Instead of what I'm over here doing is just visualizing what does it look like and feel like when we are in Mexico, right? Like my kids have never really traveled internationally aside from a cruise, so I'm visualizing that and what that experience looks like, and then learning and hearing other people speak Spanish freely and experiencing what a resort like that looks like that feels so amazing to me. So I can also get into vibrational resonance through feeling through and visualizing that. So again, the universe doesn't speak words, it speaks in vibrations. And so whatever image you need to hold on to that creates what it is you want, that's where your attention should be. So whether it's a memory, whether it's a visualization, whether it's something in your current reality, right? Like I've shared this with you guys before when I record the show, my office is this beautiful window that overlooks the golf course. And when I look at the golf course and I look at all the homes across and all the things, like it just feels abundant and luxurious and fun. And so like finding ways to feel what you want. So we let go of resistance by stop giving our attention to what it is that we don't want. And instead we give our attention to what it is that we do want and finding that feeling place of it. So that's how we're going to basically work with resistance. We work with contrast in that same way. But I wanted to have this conversation because again, most of you are very smart people and most of you are familiar with this work and you've read the books and you have a basic intellectual understanding of the work, but you're having a hard time really realizing what it is that you desire for whatever reason, right? And that is why contrast and resistance. Those are the only two reasons why you don't have it, is because you keep reacting to the contrast. You keep making the contrast mean that it's not working out for you. And then with this resistance, you give it all of your attention and all of your time and all of your energy, and it's where all of your focus goes. And that is why those two things those things are alive in your life, because they're getting your attention. What you give your attention to, you are where your attention is. Right? If your attention is on being in Mexico, if your attention is on, having a X number of listings, closing this month or whatever the case may be, right? Or recruiting Y number of members to your team or, going on a vacation with your family. I don't know what it is. But when we focus on what it is we want and we give our energy to what it is that we want as the creator of our reality, right? So we're not giving our energy. Okay, I'm going to wrap up on this. When I say focus on what it is that you do want, we need to focus on it as how it feels when it's done, not I don't have it. So again, if focusing on the trip to Mexico is the example I gave you, right? Like if focusing on the trip to Mexico just exacerbates the fact that I am not prepared to make an investment for Mexico right now because there's other goals that I want to hit first. And that feels yucky and that feels gross and that feels like lack and limitation and all of these other things, then that's not our thought, right? Like that's not our thought. So again, finding what is the feeling place of what it is that you desire and being able to stay in that. But this all comes from identity, from the identity. If you don't believe that you're the creator of your reality, if you don't believe that your ideas and your intentions and your thoughts and your actions, your thoughts, feelings, and actions create, then none of this matters anyway, right? So the identity comes from, if I'm the creator of my reality, I can put my attention on what it is that I want and I can bring more of that into my life. But if I feel like I have to keep my attention on this less than desirable situation in order to fix it, I'm coming from an identity of victim. I'm coming from an identity of life is happening to me, not I am the creator of my reality. And that's why we always start with identity. It's why like literally module number 1, lesson 1, teaching 1 of my program is who are you and what do you want? Because if you don't believe that you're the creator of your reality and you're not clear on what you want, none of this shit matters, right? So that's why sometimes we overstudy and we don't implement or we don't actually do the work. And then we just see the contrast and react and see the contrast and react. And we just wind up on this hamster wheel of life where we feel like maybe every now and again we create something, but we don't create sustainable, lasting change because we keep reacting to what it is that we're seeing and making it mean that that means that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm never going to have it, I'm doing it wrong, whatever the case may be. So it really is about how do I, wear my identity as creator, think, feel, and act like creator. Because remember, if I'm the creator of my reality, which you are, and I see contrast, meaning a client cancels when I'm trying to sign more clients, I have to not react to that because I realize that that's not part of what I'm creating. Every time you react to it, you're slipping back into the identity of victim consciousness. You're slipping back into the identity of I have no control here and the world is just happening to me. So, it's a practice of being able to see it. It's retraining your brain, right? It's creating a new habit. But it also comes back to, if I truly believe that I was the creator of my reality and I truly believe that I could be, do, and have anything, would I give a shit about this client canceling? No, I would just assume that it was time for that client to move on, that client needed something else, that we were no longer in vibrational resonance. I wouldn't make it mean that it means that I'm never going to get it, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart, or I'm doing it wrong. Right? So this is why it's like this cocktail. Abraham always talks about it from this space of it's like a chemical, it's like an experiment, right? And depending on where you are and how much resistance you have and how big your story is how you balance all of these things out. But it does come rooted in the story of identity. Because again, if I'm the creator of my reality, it doesn't matter what happens in the outside world. It's old, it's a lesson, it's something that's preparing me. It's just an opportunity for me to get clearer and clearer on what I do want, right? Like whatever story you can tell yourself to make you feel good, because that's really the end game here, right? It's not about practices. It's not about words. It's not about the work that you do. It's where are you energetically? Because right now you are an energetic match to client canceling, and you are an energetic match to whatever it is that you're resisting in your life. And you can be an energetic match to something else immediately, right? Because I don't need to physically be in Mexico for me to have a very clear visual and feeling of what Mexico feels like with my family. Like I can get there right now. I can literally explain to you the color of the ocean and the sand and the blue chair that I'm sitting on and the kids playing, and they've got on these life jackets, and we're going kayaking, and Derek loves deep sea fishing. And so we take the kids fishing, and it's this incredible experience on a boat, and it's so much fun. And then I go to these memories of I remember going to Mexico with my girlfriends when I was in college, and I was on a boat, and I wasn't on a very different boating experience. But do you know what I'm saying? I can get there in my head. I don't need to be in Mexico for me to feel that, for me to do that. We think I need the outside world to change. I need to be in Mexico in order to feel like it's going to feel like in Mexico, where I can be in vibrational resonance with Mexico, sitting here right now in my house, recording this for you. You, my friend, are so much more powerful than what you realize. And that contrast, it's just old. It's just old. It's what you used to be a vibrational match to. And if you continue to react to it, you will continue to be a vibrational match to it. The same with resistance. The more you scream no, the more attention you give it, talk about it, think about it, bitch about it, complain about it, gossip about it, create content about it, worry about it, the more you keep it alive. Your attention, your focus is what creates. Focus on what you want. Focus on what that feels. Focus on, if I'm the creator of my reality and I know this is done without a shadow of a doubt, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? How am I acting? That's how we get what I want. What we want. Resistance and contrast are only there because we keep giving them our attention. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Uncensored Self Podcast. If you're walking away with a new perspective, some fresh inspiration, or the push you needed to show up as your uncensored self, I'd love to hear about it. Share this episode, leave a review, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember, success isn't about following somebody else's rules. It's about owning who you are, deciding what you want, and going after it unapologetically. Until next time, keep leading, keep creating, and stay uncensored.